Welcome back to episode 5. All I can say is this one I'm going to call absolute disaster. So, before I can tell you the story, I'm going to have to set the scene. It's Friday. We've built a lovely tent over the top of the koi pond. All the king spans in, everything's prepped, ready for the fiberglasser. It was like Christmas Eve in my house Friday night. I'd even gone to bed wearing my Christmas jammies. That's how excited I was, all ready for the fiberglasser to turn up at 7:30 on Saturday morning. Juan, the fiberglass man, actually turned up at 6:30, a little bit early. And all I can say is he's just lucky that Lady Decoy didn't want some extra cuddles that morning, if you know what I mean. Because if she had it on, he'd have been stood out there on the street with all his fiberglass gear for at least 2.5 minutes. That being said, his luck was in that day and mine certainly wasn't, so I was up at 6 o'clock. I'd gone out, helped him grab all his gear in, put the kettle on, whipped us up a couple of coffees and set about preparations for getting the pond fiberglassed. Luckily enough, we'd sent Juan all the dimensions of the pond a few days before, so he was able to cut all his fiberglass matting to size in preparation for getting it done. Myself and Lady Decoy had a friend's wedding to attend that day and we were getting picked up around 11 o'clock. So I was obviously nipping out every 10 minutes to see how he was getting on. And he was cracking through it. By the time we got picked up at 11, I would say, you know, he had a good half of the pond done. So Juan was cracking on. We were at a wedding. I was checking me cameras every sort of 20 minutes to see how it was looking and how he was getting on. I'm at a wedding here in Rosington Hall. Stunning place, but the guys are at home fiberglassing my pond. Ooh, we had a thunderstorm today, so not good. But I'm hoping they manage to finish it. Just as Juan was getting towards the end of the fiberglassing of the pond, the heavens opened and we had a thunderstorm and downpour of biblical proportions here. The amount of water that fell in a short period was unbelievable. Luckily enough, Juan had just finished off, got it covered up when the heavy rains were coming down. No water got in the pond whatsoever, but given the state of play, they weren't going to risk flow coating the pond while the weather was in the state it was. I got back from the wedding around 11 o'clock on Saturday night. Quickly come out to check the pond. Everything was hunky-dory, bone dry inside. Disaster averted, or so we thought. The next morning, Sunday, Juan was coming back to carry on with the flow coat. I was up early because I thought he might have turned up at the crack of dawn again, but he didn't. So I just potted around for a couple of hours tidying up before he turned up. Once Juan arrived, back out again with a couple of coffees, got all his flow coat round, got everything prepped. Juan got changed into his sexy fiberglassing uniform and jumped in the pond. And that's when we realised disaster had actually hit. The floor in the pond was floating. So no water had got in from above whatsoever, but plenty of water had got in from underneath. The floor was like the carpet of the Titanic just before the last stages. Heartbroken and devastated, I took myself off to the bathroom to cry for a good 20 minutes. Once I'd finished that, cleaned my mascara up, popped back out, and we got on the phone to Morgan Ashton, the pond builders. Those guys turned up within half an hour, which is an absolute testament to the service that the boys offer. After plenty of debate and discussion and decisions, we decided we're going to cut a hole in the floor and let the water out. That being said, we thought if we just cut a hole in the floor of the fiberglass, let the water out into the bottom drains, vac it out, get it all dry, we'd be able to patch that up, fresh fiberglass once it was all dried out, and then we'd be able to get it all flow coated once we'd cleaned it off. When we cut the hole round the bottom drains, the amount of water that came out was unbelievable. That all went in the bottom drains, pond vacked in, water down the drain. The floor had settled back down again. but it was still very squelchy on the feet. So that's when me and the guys set about doing the hokey cokey for an hour. From corner to drain, just to try and squeeze as much water out as we could. We then laid brand new boards of Kingspan all across the floor and piled blocks up on top of it to keep the pressure down, just in the hope that if we had any more rain, the floor wouldn't lift and it would be able to get on through. The next day, Monday, Morgan Ashton Pond Builders come back, had a look at the floor, still a bit squelchy on their feet. So they decided to head round the back of the pond to the lowest possible point and dig a well 3 or 4 feet below the base of the pond. Set about digging that out, and that instantly was filling up. We're vacuuming it out as they're digging, pumping the water down the drain. It was unbelievable. Once they'd got the well dug and we'd sucked as much water away as we could, had another check on the floor just to see how it was, and it was still, again, very squelchy. We decided to leave it and come back the following day. So when the guys turned up the next day, do you think we managed to fix it? You'll have to find out in the next video. So subscribe and hit the bell and you won't miss it.